Now we will talk about tax payments. The property tax payment process is a relatively simple process involving the following: understanding what property tax is paid on, the difference between book value and market value, knowing the payment deadlines, payment calculations, locating the correct tax forms, and the methods of payment. According to Chapter 11, Subsection C of the Texas Property Tax Code, all real and tangible personal property that this state has jurisdiction to tax is taxable unless exempt by law. So what does this mean? What is exempt by law? Personal property that is not used in income creation is exempt by law. So this could be a car that is not used in a business, a blender, a couch, a bed, you name it. If it's not used in income for a business, then it is not taxable. Intangible personal property is also not taxable. This could be a patent, a copyright, a stock. There are also other green, charitable, and homestead exemptions that we've covered that the law exempts from taxation. Book value versus market value. Most of us know what book value and market value is. However, to review, book value is the value of an asset according to company accounting books, usually the purchase price minus some depreciation. And market value is the amount an item would sell for in the open market in a fair transaction. Governments rely on market value for property tax purposes. The pro that this allows is that market value may be less than book value and is the most fair method that an item can be valued. However, the con is that unlike book value, it is not written down anywhere. Payment calculation. There are a few steps. First is locate. Locate the appraised value of the property figure. This can be found on brazoscad.org. Add the market value of personal property used for business purposes. Subtract any and all exemptions that you may have on your property. Then multiply the total after adjustments by your property tax rate. That can also be found on brazoscad.org. This is only an estimate, however, it can give you a good idea of what your tax bill will be. Also important in payment is deadlines and finding your forms. The deadline to pay property tax is January 31st. However, the deadline to file homestead exemption is April 30th before the tax is due. And don't worry if you come January and you haven't filed this already. You can still save the 20% by filing up to 1 year late. Deadline to file a protest is either May 31st or 30 days after a notice of appraised value was mailed to you, whichever is later. Now there are two methods of payment. The first is escrow. Escrow is defined as a deed, bond, money, or piece of property held in trust by a third party to be turned over to the guarantee only upon fulfillment of a condition. Now for property tax purposes, escrow is where the bank that you have a mortgage with collects an estimated 1/12 of your property taxes per year so that it is in bite-sized chunks rather than all at once. This is kind of like when your employer withholds personal income taxes from you. Check or credit card. After receiving your property tax bill in the mail and reviewing the calculation of your amount owed, you can either write a check or pay by credit card where available. Finally, we will go over step 6, tax collections of the tax process.
We've reached the last and final step of the tax process for property taxes in Texas. First, just a reminder, Texas has no state property tax. The legislature has authorized local governments to collect the tax. The state does not set the tax rates, collect the taxes, or settle disputes between the taxpayers and their local governments. That is the responsibility of the local governments in the appraisal districts. Each of the 4 governing bodies we spoke about set the tax rates according to their budgeting needs, and then usually, in most counties, local governments contract with the county tax assessor or collector to collect all property taxes for the district, property taxes for the county, city, and special districts. This allows for taxpayers to send in one payment, which will later be distributed to each of the taxing units. So the Brazos County Tax Collector has the ability to assess and collect property taxes for all taxing jurisdictions within Brazos County. Their location and phone number are listed below, and more information can be found about them at brazostax.org. This website provides property tax information and links for internet payment of taxes. This concludes our presentation on property taxes in Texas, and at this point we'd like to take any questions that you might have. Thank you.